will be a very, very happy man. South Africa have won the World Cup. Yes! Unbelievable!
Well, the Springboks proved to be a formidable force under Nick Mallet, particularly in 1997 and 98, going on a run of 17 unbeaten test matches. Gary Teichmann was the man who captained them, but Hugh, as always happens, a bit of drama in the lead up to the World Cup. Gary found himself injured, and I think he was having a bit of therapy when the phone call from Nick Mallet came in.
Yes, I think Gary had gone through a little bit of a bad time in terms of the pressure of the amount of rugby he had played, and there was a little swell of opinion that Gary had lost form a little bit. But he was a brilliant captain and had the respect of all the players. And I remember my good friend, the late Mickey Gerber, was convener of the Springbok Selection Committee, and I took him to task for dropping Gary. And I think that it's well documented that Nick regrets the decision.
South Africa are the 1998 Tri-Nations champions, Uli.
After much consideration, the Springbok selectors have agreed that Joost van der Westhuizen be appointed to captain the Springbok team for the home tests of the Winfield Tri-Nations as well as the 1999 World Cup.
I can remember I just came back the morning into the change room from a Bulls training, switched my phone on, and I see Nick Mallet left a message. I must give him a call. So I phoned him, and the first thing he said is, "Hello, how are you? Fine, thanks. Okay, do you want to be captain of the Springboks?" And there was just silence, and I said, "I'll call you back." The first guy I phoned after that immediately was Gary Teichmann. I said, "Gary, what's going on?" And Gary said, "No, that Nick phoned him, and it's the end of the road for him."
I've spoken with Gary Teichmann and explained the reasons for the decision. It was a very difficult decision for the selectors to make, but it was a decision that we believe was unavoidable. The captain of the Springbok team has to be an automatic selection in his position in the starting 15. And looking at our best possible loose forward combination at present, we do not feel that Gary is an automatic first choice.
When you do set your goals and suddenly you don't achieve them, it's a big disappointment. The difference between 95, I sort of had an idea that I wasn't going to make it. All along I was pushing for a place, but Rudolph was playing really well, and there was Tian, so I sort of had an idea. But this year was totally different. As I said, I sort of set the goals to get there this year, and things change, and you just got to accept them.
What bothered me most was the fact that you've been dropped for a guy that wasn't playing. If he was playing international rugby, and then I would have had no qualms about it.
Me competing for a position, then obviously got the backs up of, some of the public, therefore some of the media, and quite possibly therefore some of the players, And you got to remember, for me, competing for a position, I was competing against the captain, Gary Teichmann, Rassie Erasmus, who was player of the year, in the Currie Cup, and Andre Venter, who was an icon in world rugby, was a nominee for player of the year in South Africa as well. So while I do feel I was playing good enough rugby to be part of the mix, I don't think it was that well handled. But it wasn't up to me to handle it. It was me to try and play good rugby.
I knew that Nick was making a mistake. Not because of me, because of dropping Gary Teichmann. He had the team so close together. He didn't lead by words, but he led by example. He led by the way he lived and by the way he played. And for me, he was one of the best captains I've ever played under. And I truly believe that he would have gone and helped us win that World Cup in 1999.
99 was a dramatic year for all of us, for various reasons. Obviously, when you play in a World Cup, you want to win the World Cup, and I think a lot of planning goes into a World Cup. And as you referred to, Nick was probably the first one to say that he made the wrong call at the time. I think that certainly affected the dynamics of the team. It almost somehow split the team in half, and it almost made everybody wary that you could be the next one who falls out of the team. So it was almost a sense of guys were now scared to open up their mouth. Guys were scared to maybe try and do things out of their comfort zone, because now all of a sudden one of the so-called heroes of the side were dropped, and there was a sense of uneasiness in the camp.
Gary Teichmann or no Gary Teichmann, the Springboks were still bound for the World Cup. It all kicked off in Cardiff, and the Boks' first appointment was against the Scots. The Millennium Stadium was complete in all its magnificence, as a nation who loves singing welcomed the world's rugby nations for the 4th Rugby World Cup tournament.
I am delighted to declare the 1999 Rugby World Cup tournament open.
Said farewell to Wembley, and now we're back in Cardiff because they finished it on time.
It was Birds, Tommy Smith who got it away. Great tackle by Andre Venter, the ref waiting for advantage. Kenny Logan is straight to, and Scotland are in the lead. Skinstad is there, so is Gerard. Good take by De Beer. This is Erasmus going hard, he's 2 meters out. And another penalty to South Africa. This is a much easier kick. Yanni De Beer curls it in, and the scores are level. And this is Andre Venter. Andre Venter has got over the line. The doctor from Bloemfontein, and that is just what the doctor ordered.
Just making the Scottish defence hesitate. Quick ball from the scrum. Brendan Venter using his pace to outstrip Gary Armstrong to the line. Great score.
Strong cover by Erasmus. Now Graham. Came thundering in, did the stocky front ranker. Oh, here's a space here for Armstrong. So close. Simpson, the number 8, goes in very quickly. Tate hovers. Now it's Leslie. Gets the try for Scotland. Armstrong. Montgomery is there. So is Tate, but Montgomery has done well. Venter, wide for Kaiser. There's space here for Kaiser. For Robbie Fleck. Robbie Fleck will make it all the way. Try time, South Africa. Van der Westhuizen. That's a good move by Van der Westhuizen. Oh, look at this! Look at this by Ollie LaRue! Now South Africa seem to be swarming around the Scottish players as they get it. Their rucking has been superb. Townsend wide. Now, and Dion Kaiser, he's been one of the heroes. Can he go all the way? I think he can. It's a wonderful score for Dion Kaiser. The question now is the control. That's good ball. This is Robbie Fleck. He's found space. If he can find Montgomery, it's all over. He finds Andre Venter, and that surely must wrap it up. Van der Westhuizen, he will give chase, I assure you of that. Rousseau coming up quickly. Murray was there. Rousseau is, well, look how many South Africans are there. They leave it to the skipper, and he increases his try-scoring record to 27.
This was the most important game for us for the whole World Cup, is to just get the win in the first game. We can say it's 2 easier games, but still we need to prepare for the quarterfinal.
As expected, the Springboks advanced through the pool phase with not too much trouble. Their first real test, though, in that World Cup coming up against their old foes, the English, in Paris. But, Hugh, there was a little bit of planning going on with Brendan Venter and one Mr. Yanni De Beer.
Well, you know, Brendan Venter was a great tactician. And, in fact, it was Peter Muller who was the guy who was designated to set up the rucks, and then Joost would pass straight back to Yanni De Beer. And he kicked 1, he kicked 2, he kicked 3, kicked the 4th. And I remember in commentary saying, on the 5th one, saying, I do not believe it, he's done it again. And remember after that, the English just crumbled because Peter Rousseau scored, and they sent on their replacements, and the replacements weren't, the English replacements were saying, what do we do now? You know, and it was just one of those days where we blew them away.
The Thursday before, with our captain training, you know, Yanni De Beer called me over and said, "Just give me a few passes. I just want to get my momentum. You know, see if I can, you know, just be confident." So after about 100 passes, I said, no, Yanni, that's enough. I mean, Smiley, come, pass a little bit, you know. It's after training, you know, I want to go and rest. And in the game it happened. First one went through, second one went through, and at one stage after the try, I just said to the guys, listen, this is what we're going to do. Give it to Peter Miller, set it up, we do a bock, it was a call, Yanni drop back and we go. And it worked. So the players actually changed it on the Thursday and on the field.
Well taken by Crano Otto. And Jim Fleming immediately having an effect on this game. Well, that's a good strike by Yanni de Beer. That's going to be another three-pointer. Chance here for Yanni de Beer to make some inroads on the situation as back chase is over. And Yanni de Beer was flattened. He struck it well. He has the distance. And he has the direction. Van der Westhuizen, Erasmus, Drotsky. Good defence by England. And England have stolen it away, but Van der Westhuizen read the play extremely well. Penalty to South Africa.
I think England may be ruining. That's a great kick by Yanni de Beer as we watch that go over and bring the score to.
You know, everybody said, I can remember somebody said, I thought England. You know, what actually happened is we prepared a nice running game. That's where the first try comes from.
Rucock's been very good in the line-out. Sorry, Joel.
I was going to say, and obviously, if you do force the opposition to give away a penalty, it's within kicking goal, within kicking distance.
Well, Grayson again. This time it is not a good kick at all. Beautifully taken by Rousseau. There were players on his inside, but he couldn't recover. But Montgomery had chance here for Peter Muller. Van der Westhuizen's on the outside. Can he get it down? Yes, says Paul Hodes.
Got it down, but not before the flag. Now, I must say, when I saw the little gap in the little, I realized that I must lift my hand as soon as possible because obviously the defense is coming from the side. And I tried, you know, and as I did this, they hit me as well, and I tried as quick as possible, but I did think my hand did touch the flag first. But then again, the flag was sideways, not straight up. But I think if we had TMOs, it wouldn't have been allowed. But now again, with the new rules, it would have been allowed.
He struck it well, it's curling in. He is really on song, so is Paul Grayson for England. Robbie Fleck's gone in to try and loosen the ball up. Van der Westhuizen, De Beer, he practiced, he's got it! He's got it!
What happened was with Brendan obviously not being part of the squad anymore with the red card that he received and being a technical guy, always been like that. And if you know Brendan, you know, he likes to be involved and he likes to make the calls, you know, as far as the game is concerned, and he's got a rugby brain without a doubt. So he made a suggestion. Now you got to understand, if you played for the Free State next to Brendan Fenton and Chris Barnes, those guys, you don't kick the ball. You pass the ball because they want to try score, you know, score tries. And then he came up to me and he said, listen, Yanni, how much time do you need for a drop goal? I said, why you ask something like that? Because 2 seconds might be enough. And then he took me to the video, you know, obviously to our video room. And we sat down, we had a look at England and the defensive pattern. And we counted them with, they got a rugby league coach. And what they did was, you know, they come up on defense, but they don't actually come and fetch you. They wait and then they drift. And eventually if the wing gets the ball, they just nail him. That's the way they defend. And we looked at it and we had like 3-4 seconds for a drop goal. And he said to me, Yanni, a drop goal will work against England. He gave it a name, I will never forget it. The drop goal name was Bok, so we set it up 34-22, Cheetah Bok, for example. So we had our ruck, we had guys leading back in the pocket, go for it, you know. So we had the call on that. But on a day, you know, you don't go out there and try and kick 5 drop goals. So it's ridiculous. You cannot expect stuff like that to happen. It was just meant to be.
Over the bar, and this man, Yanni de Beer, is changing this game around. Van der Westhuizen, Muller. Just setting it up. Here goes De Beer again. Is that going to pop over the crossbar? Yes! My word, it has done it again. Good work there by the forwards. Van der Westhuizen, Erasmus. Narka Drotsky was in quickly. Yanni de Beer, don't believe this. If this guy, he's turned! 5 drop kicks. That has got to be some awesome record.
I must say, people remind you of it. I used to do business in the UK, well, still bits and pieces here and there. But anyways, I remember
At one stage, we were doing business in the UK, and we went up to one bank. Cannot remember, it's Royal Bank of Scotland, and we sat down there and we had an interview. We just spoke to them about business opportunities. And the one lady, she was sitting there because I gave my business card and she gave hers, and we were sitting there, me and my business partner. And obviously, being British, she was sitting there, and you could see what she was struggling with. There's something going on. I don't know what it was. And the next moment, while we were busy in the meeting, she just said, "Gee, I know who you are. I know who you are." And I said, "Sorry?" And said, "Yeah, you're that horrible kicker." Because obviously she remembers that England game. So yeah, sometimes it opens doors. As a matter of fact, we never did business with them for some other reason. She just said, "Okay, cheers. See you guys again."
Tick-tock, you don't stop. To the 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 tick-tock, you don't stop.
Tipped to be a big, tight game. Toss of a coin, any team could win it.
Never seen a game with 5 drop goals, and you know, we tried everything. It wasn't meant to be, and that's it. Game's over. World Cup's over for England, and we're all very disappointed. Can't say any more than that.
It has been that man there, Yanni de Beer. What a performance.
Your car is one of the most expensive investments you'll ever make. But no matter how hard you try, somehow, someone will find a way to scratch it. Fix-It doesn't mask or hide the scratch temporarily. It fills the scratch permanently, creating a permanent bond with your car's clear coat finish.
Fix-It. The scratch has met its match.
Call 430-6000 now for your Fix-It Pro for the incredibly low price of just R149.95. Also available at Homemark stores, these fine stores nationwide.
It's not luck, it's hard work, not settling for anything but the best. That's why I take Pharmaton, the only multivitamin with ginseng G115. It gives me the energy to keep going. It helps me stay mentally focused every day. Because when it never stops, you can't either. Pharmaton, never give up.
The IAAF Diamond League, live and in HD, exclusive to SuperSport, your world of champions.
Rugby 5 is your chance to win big on rugby. To win, predict the results of 5 matches, choosing from 5 result options in each match. Choose one result for each match and play a single bet for R5, or play a multiple bet at R5 per combination. Bet Rugby 5 by phone or online on your mobile or PC. It's great!
Well, after the heroics of Yanni de Beer and the Springboks, it was on to Australia in the semi-finals. And Hugh Bladen, it was an incredibly tight match. One that I still think, if you speak to the guys today, they think they had it. They probably shouldn't have lost it.
Yanni de Beer kicked a penalty against the wind to level the scores. A great penalty. We went into extra time. There was a line out on the Australian, on the Springboks 22. And Yanni de Beer kicked for touch. The game was very tight, but we were getting ahead. And he kicked for touch and he missed touch, went into touch on the full. By that much. And they went back for the line out. Australia won the line out, and Larkham kicked the first of his 2 drops in 102 test matches.
waits for the ball. South Africa have fanned out. Drop kick by Larkham has come off the side of his boot. Durant gets it wide for Robbie Fleck. He had to hold on to it. The Australians were up very quickly. Muller, Van der Westhuizen, De Beer. Can he do it again? It's wide, says Derek Bevan. Plenty of Australian jerseys there. De Beer again with a drop attempt. That's gone wide. That, in all his attempts, is by far the worst one he's had. The other kick by Van der Westhuizen was straight into touch. That's why Cobain is able to get the line out. Gregan, Larkham, Horan, very quick through the tackle. He bursts past Andre Venter. Now Horan goes hard, looking for support, lays it back for Cobain. Gregan, South Africa desperate to get back in a defensive position, but they were all offside. That's well struck by Matt Burke. Horan is back to make it. He's having a big game. Played here in the 91 final. Rousseau looks to go on his own. There was nobody really wide for Peter Rousseau. And David Wilson farms the ball from an offside position. He seems to have struck that well. And it's over. Van der Westhuizen, De Beer looking for the opening. Fleck gives chase very fast, and Horan was offside, palpably offside. The referee waiting for advantage. Will that curve in? He's struck it well. The people who are behind the post were on their feet immediately. They're about 15 metres out of South Africa, driven forward again by one of the South Africans. They need to produce the ball. Desperate defence by Australia. Wide for De Beer. The drop is charged down to narrow that gap to 3 points. He's struck it quite nicely. They love it to the crowd. And South Africa still more towards the Australian 22, as you can see there, over it now. Van der Westhuizen digs for it, moves it wide for De Beer. The drop kick. He's got it. He's done it once again. Now Andre Vos drives it forward. Ollie Leroux is behind him. Van der Westhuizen goes. Couldn't get away from Eels. Venter drives it up. Van der Westhuizen, it's a penalty to South Africa. The wind will probably bring it back. He's struck it well. He's struck it well. It's there. It's there. The score's a level. They will play extra time. He struck that well. The flags go up. And he continues to do so. We're back at 21 all.
But then the drop goal, I mean, I went across the fence as quick as I can, and Rassie was on my inside, and suddenly I just saw him throw the ball and it went, and as I turned around, no, it can't be. And I think that sort of broke the spirit. And although I tried, and Rassie and the guys tried to pick the guys up, I mean, after that drop, Australia just had so much confidence.
Looking good, looking good. Goodness me, Stephen Larkham.
It's easy to say it's the drop goal, but we also had our opportunities. 1 or 2 ways we break and kicked. I can remember I threw a dummy because everybody was expecting Yanni De Beer to drop. And I went through and I saw the wingers come, and I saw the fullback, and the one thing that stuck in my mind was Nick Mallett said, never ever kick the ball away. And he said to me as well, especially when I broke, is rather find support. Till today, it messes my mind. Should I chipped? And what would have happened? But what I did is I kept the ball, waited for the support, and from there on after that we made a mistake. But I believe I should have chipped the ball.
Said mistakes will count. And there we see another one.
As if he misses, will South Africa counter-attack? And it's looking good. The crowd, roar from the crowd. Australia are in the final for the first time in 11 games. South Africa experience what it's like to lose, Joel.
If there was a difference between the two sides today, where do you think it was?
I think one drop goal against us.
You need a bit of an X factor here and there, and that's what wins World Cups. That's just the way it is. With obviously with Joel Stronsky's drop goal, and then also at the later stage with Johnny Wilkinson and Stephen Larkham, as a matter of fact. Although it wasn't the winning kick, but only against us in a semi-final of that World Cup. You know, that drop goal actually set them up for a final, and obviously we all know what happened there. You know, the French never pitched up. You know, they was just totally outplayed on the day.
The makeup of the team could have been very different, especially given the controversy of Teichmann's omission and the captaincy falling squarely on the shoulders of Van der Westhuizen. And unbeknownst to the public at the time was the fact that even he almost didn't make the trip.
I was injured in May. I tried to keep it out of the press, spoke to Dr. Frans Verster, and I said to him, you know what, Doc, I did my ligaments in one of the Super 12 games. And at one stage I went up to a training camp. Remember now, I'm already captain. And I said to Dr. Frans Verster, I have to be honest with Nick. I can't go like this if I'm not fit. Not a lot of people know it, so it might be the first. And I said to Nick, Nick, I don't have ligaments, but give me a chance to get fully fit. And he said, he'll give me a month, because within a month we're going to have the final fitness test. And if I'm fit, I can go. So he was sort of, I don't think he was in a very happy mood that day. But the interesting thing is when we went back for the test on the Cybex, I strapped my knee, and my injured knee actually came out better than my left knee. That's how I worked to really get into the World Cup side and take them to Scotland.
It was a disappointing end to the World Cup for the Springboks. One consolation, though, was that they still managed to beat the All Blacks in the third place playoff. Well, on to 2003, and the lead up to this Rugby World Cup was not that great. The Springboks had suffered a humiliating 53-3 loss to England the year before. Rudolf Stroili was now the man in charge. And Hugh, there was just so much drama in the lead up to that World Cup. We had the Gio Cronje saga with Quinton Davids, we had Gum Staldrot. It just seemed to be a team in turmoil heading into the World Cup.
Well, you know, Kola, they always say, Corne Krieger, the right captain at the wrong time. But I think a lot of people forget that it was a very, very young, inexperienced Springbok side. And in looking at it in the positive way, that Springbok side, or the nucleus of it, as very young players. I mean, Skalkberger was 20 years old, had played 2 tests. The nucleus of that team went through 4 years later.
But in 2003, however, they really battled.
It was the most difficult year in my career when it comes to Springbok rugby, for the fact that there was a lot of dishonesty.
Gum Staldrot, which would create a lot of controversy, would also happen, but that story didn't break until after the tournament.
If there's maybe one thing that I regret in my whole career is that at a certain point the captaincy became a little bit too important to me. I should have maybe said, you know what, rather than eat up all this nonsense, I'll just give it all up.
I said before the tournament that it's going to be the end of my career. Last game, actually I said the final will be my last game.
South African rugby was plunged into conflict last week by a race row that broke out around the heads of lock forwards Gio Cronje and Quinton Davids. Following allegations in a Cape Town newspaper last Thursday that Blue Bull Cronje had refused to share a room with Western Province's Davids, SAFU released a press statement in which it was stated the union was investigating allegations of racism against lock Gio Cronje following an incident involving fellow player Quinton Davids during the Springbok training camp in Pretoria, and that it had been agreed that Cronje be immediately removed from the camp, pending an investigation. The statement added that SAFU was satisfied that team management had acted correctly in dealing with the matter. The investigation found that disciplinary proceedings against Cronje based on acts of racism were not warranted or justified. The SAFU statement added that should further evidence or information reveal a breach of conduct by Cronje, the matter would be re-investigated and the necessary disciplinary action taken. On Saturday evening, the 30-man Springbok team to take part in the Rugby World Cup was announced, and neither Cronje nor Davids were selected, while the Springbok team's communications manager, Mark Keohane, today resigned in protest at what he termed the the ongoing prejudice in South African rugby.
And a credit to the side, it could have pulled our team apart in the last 2 days, and the guys have really stuck together well, and they've shown what a team is made of. It's really stuck together and shown that we can go forward with this team. And I think, of course, teams are diverse in culture and diverse in many ways, but that we believe is our strength, and we're going to stick together and we're going to build this team into a massively strong team.
Given the history and the background of our country, racism still is there, remnants of it, lots of it, among society as a whole. And the only thing I would want, which I'm getting from the team manager, to understand, and he's given me that the team trains together, the team is working together as a unit. And as the minister responsible for sport, I think the responsibility that I have is to say to the coach and the manager, go and take that team to the World Cup to represent this country.
Before their departure to Perth, the Boks attended a farewell dinner on Thursday evening at the Sandton Convention Centre.
We are focused on building and growing a team spirit that will carry us in the good times and that will thrive and help us in those bad times when it's really going tough, as we went through in these last few weeks. I want to leave you with a few words from a team chant that when times were really, really tough for us, many, many miles from here in the bush somewhere, we very tired, didn't have a lot of sleep, and very dirty because it hadn't bathed for a few days. And we came up with a song. The song goes as follows: our blood is green, it's Springbok green. So come along and sing the song. Ladies and gentlemen, I know your blood is green, and I know you support us, and we will make you proud.
We are great lovers of sport, and we are delighted to join the lovers of sport and lovers of rugby from around the world in this great competition. And in that spirit, I have great pleasure in declaring the Rugby World Cup of 2003 officially open.
The IAAF Diamond League, live and in HD, exclusive to SuperSport, your world of champions.
Rugby 5 is your chance to win big on rugby. To win, predict the results of 5 matches, choosing from 5 result options in each match. Choose one result for each match and play a single bet for 5 Rand, or play a multiple bet at 5 Rand per combination. Bet Rugby 5 by phone or online on your mobile or PC. It's great!
There were again similarities in the Springboks' path in 2003 to what we saw in 1995. Had they lost that opening match against Australia, they would have taken what Kitch Christie termed the low road. And in 2003, they had to beat the English in the pool stages to assure that they could take the high road. Else, it was the All Blacks that would lie in wait in the quarterfinals.
Do you think that we had far too much focus on beating England in Perth rather than winning the Rugby World Cup?
I was concerned. I was really concerned about that beforehand, and I did mention it to Rudolph and said, we're putting names on tackling bags, and our focus is England, because if we beat England, we had the easy route, which was Wales in the quarterfinal, and we always knew that if we don't beat England, we hit New Zealand. But I think you've got to gun for your first option, but be prepared that if it doesn't happen, you know, you can still beat New Zealand, and New Zealand aren't unbeatable, and France have shown that in 2 World Cups. We were ready for that game, and I tell you what, out of all the games I played against England, that was probably the closest that we got to beating them, because we had them rattled badly. And I remember the guys swearing at each other, moaning at the referee. They were rattled big time because we were in their face. We were playing some decent rugby. And then on the unfortunate charge down from Louis Kuhn, and that turned the game for them. And then Johnny Wilkinson won it with a couple of drop goals. But not a lot of people know that Louis' wife was actually hijacked that week in Joburg, and she was pregnant at the time, and a gun was held to her head or something. So it was a big week for him, you know, and I felt so sorry for Louis after the game. It wasn't his fault, you know, we could still have won the game if we'd gone more points ahead, you know. But on that day, I think England just showed that the experience, when it really counted, came through.
They're going to use the sledgehammer approach, South Africa. The crowd's happy.
Getting a little bit more ball. And that was Bezuidenhout. Now on the outside. Stuart Smith! Now's a chance as Vashon Willems comes on the inside. I'm not quite sure. I think maybe he should have kept on the outside as Juan Smith there. Yuri Miller in possession as South Africa pound over the 22. Penalty, South Africa. Great running there. Juan Smith. He's kicked 135 points for South Africa, and it keeps its line. The scores are level.
Attacking time for England.
You got me down, thank you. On your second round, thank you a lot. Good luck.
And Wilkinson has kicked another excellent penalty kick, but it comes out for South Africa, picked up by Kruger. Can the forwards now pound in behind the corner, Kruger. Chance here for Joe van Niekerk, because England now have to defend for dear life. Up for Bezuidenhout. They need to make absolutely sure they keep the ball. Louis Kuhn, defeat Barry, bit of space here. Yuri Miller was tackled early. Now it's Van der Westhuizen. There's no question that that could have been a penalty try. There was a try on all the way there. And can he level the scores? And it is over. England come in droves. That's good defense again by the Springboks. Now back for well, right in there was Lucy. The referee says South Africa offside, and England are 3 in the lead. Bracken, Robinson, this is dangerous. Johnson drives it forward. Great tackle by Kruger. Referee waiting for advantage. Straight in front of the post. Kicked those 8 penalties in Bloemfontein. He's kicked 4 tonight. England lead by 12-6. Van der Westhuizen. Kuhn. Oh, there's trouble here for South Africa. This is real trouble. Is it Greenwood? It is Greenwood. It's converted by Wilkinson. Delalio, Bracken. Cohen's got rid of the first man on defence. Delalio goes piling in. You can't afford to miss tackles like that. Bracken, Wilkinson. That's, I think, the ball game. Bracken, Wilkinson could kick another drop here. He has. He's killing them with the boot, and the boot ahead is killing South Africa. The kicks ahead. They've had a kick charge down.
If you want to be world champions, you've got to beat any side, and I think we showed today we can compete against anybody. So, you know, it is a tough one for us, but, you know, we're going to keep our heads up and keep going.
After Perth, it was off to the headquarters of the Rugby World Cup in scenically spectacular Sydney. The Boks' next game was against lowly Georgia, and it was the first occasion that John Smith was handed the captaincy of his country.
I suppose it's a dream come true for any South African that's been born with sort of Bok blood in him. So, it really is it's an amazing thing. It's an honour. They've only been 51, I've been told. So, it really is an honour, and I'm going to be a hell of a proud captain on Friday and make sure my troops come through.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, and the first time that I managed to be given, the responsibility of captaining South Africa, and quite happily so against Georgia, because I was nervous as it was, and if it had been against a country that had been giving us a hiding every now and again, that would have made things even more difficult.
The game also produced a debut for Skalkberger Jr., who was able to celebrate the occasion with his dad, Rwc Skalk, who was a Springbok in the 1980s.
It's 'n wonderlike geleentheid, en dit voel soos gister wat ek in 84 my eerste toets gespeel het. En ek weet waar ek deur is, en ek dink hy gaan deur dieselfde, en dis net wonderlik dat 'n mens vir jou land kan speel, en ook vir Suid-Afrika, en ek en Myra, my vrou, is baie trots op hom.
Vir my is die groot ding net om my eerste toets agter die blad te kry, en ouers is 'n bonus, en ek kan net nie wag om op die veld te gaan nie. Ek wag nou al 8 weke hiervoor, en ek dink as jy mens op baie velde raak, is daar nie gedagtes oor ouers en sulke goed nie, maar ek seker hulle sal baie trots wees.
Big moment for John Smith. He deserves it. He's really one of those guys who is one of the leaders in the team. He always stands up to be counted.
But Hugh, it's never pretty to see the Springboks leave the World Cup at quarter-final stage. That's exactly what happened. And on top of it all, it was a last hurrah for Rwc.
It was a sad way for a great player to end his rugby career. Rwc was so competitive that he would, dearly have loved to win that game, but it was not to be. His 89th Test match, 38 tries, and thus ended on a rather sad note, a fabulous rugby career.
The Australians were determined to show off their country during the World Cup, and the Springboks' quarter-final against New Zealand was set in the cultural capital of Melbourne.
The winner of this game between us and New Zealand has got a good chance, because I don't think anybody's rating us at the moment.
They're really impressive. Very strong up front, and they certainly showed against Samoa that they backed that up, with some fine displays by the backs as well. So very impressive.
To say that New Zealanders are jittery is probably a bit of an understatement. They're very nervous, and the survival kit thing is a reality, because if the All Blacks lose this quarter final, in 1999 there were real tears when John Hart's side lost. This would be an absolute catastrophe.
And taken on beautifully by the All Blacks there. They've driven it all towards the line with Chris Jack. And advantage to the All Blacks. Marshall is wide to Molina. And it'll be a penalty to the All Blacks. McDonald puts the All Blacks in the lead. Possibly even slow the game down if they can a little bit. Miolamu, who's continued that drive, and it's a chance here for South Africa. Well, an excellent all-round sportsman. Can he keep his cool? He's kicked it over. Collins, good pressure from Van der Westhuizen. Now Rousseau, Spencer steps inside him relatively easily, and he's got away. Now this should be points here for the All Blacks. It's a run-in coast for McDonald. And this is great ball. Hougaard, Barry decides to just go at that gap. And it's a great defence by the All Blacks, and it's a penalty. And so the kick by McDonald is on target. The flags go up. Now this is where the Springboks must put the pressure on. Turn the scrum, drive into them. And it's taken, that's surely offside. Good Willemse under pressure from McCaw. I think the referee missed something there. This is an important kick. Derek Hougaard is up to the moment. The flags are up, and they trail by 7 points. Picked up by McCaw, who's coming more and more into the dominant role in this game. Hands out green and leave it. The referee almost went for the duel. You see Major has dashed it through the uprights. A steady scrum. Smith, Van der Westhuizen, Hoogaard. And that's a little off late to Barry. Lovely little play there by Derek Hoogaard. Penalty, South Africa. Well, just moving up towards the 50-point mark in Test rugby. He's done the job again. Max Marshall, Mialamu. And Mialamu's broken the tackle. Mialamu will score here. Marshall decides to go that way. It's a penalty. The All Blacks just doing everything correctly, whereas the South Africans are making the mistakes as McDonald kicks the penalty. Now you'll see the pressure come. Ruben Thorne is this side of the scrum. It's picked up by Johan Smith, who's immediately swamped and it's turned over. Spencer, beautiful pass. Rocket Foko, that will be the ball game. Number 9 and number 5, Van der Westhuizen. Look at Joost Van der Westhuizen. That could be the end of a great international career. Thoroughly deserved winners. It's a very disappointing end to this tournament for the Springboks. The All Blacks have never done worse than get to the semi-finals.
The nation woke up to big headlines last Sunday morning. Boks trained at gunpoint, naked players forced into freezing lake. The report set off a countrywide debate that's been raging throughout the week. But what really happened at that camp?
There were personal agendas. Why the thing was totally pulled out of proportion. It was dishonest, I believe. Until today, you know, there are a lot of people that actually held it against me, and like Mr. Jan Rupert, I mean, he truly believed that I was involved in uplifting Kamp Stalrad. I never was. All I wanted to do was to show the truth.
Management did not turn to the traditional sources when they decided to include this training module. Instead, they used Adrian Heinz, an ex-member of the police task force. Why did they have to take their clothes off?
When you're naked, all your pretenses sort of fall away a little bit. So when everybody's naked, it sort of leveled the playing field. To remove all prejudice and different cultural backgrounds and racism, if there were any. And thirdly, to try and stimulate the natural pride and passion to be a Springbok.
Now you've got to look at it in perspective. We started with planning for the World Cup already last year. We did also involve the Sports Science Institute. We involved a lot of professionals and consultants. And the need was there from the players to do team bonding and team building. And that was only 4 days in the whole year of World Cup preparation. And like I said, there was no injuries. They basically came out of that camp much fitter, physically tougher, and mentally much harder.
Stalrad, as bad as it looks on TV and as little as it did for us as a rugby team, wasn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, I think if I speak to any of my brothers and my fathers, they went to the army, you know, they would have said, well, you know, that's what we did for 2 years, let alone 3 days. The sad thing is that we weren't going to an army camp. We were going to the World Cup.
Well, the English did it the same kind of training with the SAS. You know, in the past, the national team did other exercises.
The lead up to the 2003 World Cup was probably the worst lead up to any World Cup. If you think about Kamstalrat, what the tension that created in the media, the pressure that it put on us as a team, you know, accusations of racial discrimination in the team and unease amongst players, you know, all these things play a role. And I'll never forget landing in Australia and getting off the plane and walking through the doors, and the media were just all over us like a rash, you know. And I remember at some point after about 20 minutes wondering when they were going to ask me about rugby. You know, there was no questions about rugby. It was just like bombarded with, you know, is there, you know, racial problems in the team? You know, was Kamstalrat as bad as it was? You know, did you really crawl around naked in the thorns? And all these incredible questions, you know, and to try and keep your focus on the job at hand, you know, was incredibly difficult.
Here it came. Australia knew it was coming, but they were
A last-minute drop goal right at the end of extra time by Johnny Wilkinson gave England victory in the 2003 Rugby World Cup as they beat Australia 2017 in the final.
England will celebrate long and hard.
Which upset me because I would have wanted anybody else to win except them. But at the time, they were the best team in the world, and Johnny Wilkinson was definitely, you know, the key to them surviving, and they had a strong back. And obviously in that World Cup final, they put through the drop goal that won it for them. And, you know, well into then, I think Martin Johnson and rallied the troops around him very nicely. And I really believe that it wasn't for him, I don't think they would have won it.
I said before the tournament that it's going to be the end of my career. Actually, I said the final will be my last game.
He's got Van der Westhuizen support. Jos Van der Westhuizen, a try on his debut. Jos Van der Westhuizen, he makes it again. He makes it again.
Just Van der Westhuizen's 2 tries, the one up the touchline when the whole Scottish defence had gone absent without leave, and Just had a look and he got such a shot. It was like the Gobi Desert, and then off he went.
Test matches, it's unbelievable.
Still in play. Van der Westhuizen recovers. It goes to the line. And that is majestic play by the scrum half.
But still it's Van der Westhuizen. Van der Westhuizen. Yes! He did! He's got it!
Yes, Van der Westhuizen, the darling of Loftus.
It's Clark who got it away, and this is Van der Westhuizen. This equals the record. Yes, dis 'n rekord. Die rekord 'n groot oomblik vir Jos Van der Westhuizen. 21-3, 21-3, die nuwe rekord. Dalton, Van der Westhuizen, is through Van der Westhuizen continues that most remarkable try-scoring record of his. That's number 22.
Van der Westhuizen, he will give chase, I assure you of that. Rousseau coming up quickly. Murray was there. Rousseau is, well, look how many South Africans are there. They leave it to the skipper, and he increases his try-scoring record to 27.
Just Van der Westhuizen is away, and I think he's going to do it again, as he did in 94.
He really is probably one of the very best rugby players in the world today.
Westhuizen's on the outside. Can he get it down? Yes, says Paul Harness.
And Van der Westhuizen has scored yet another superb try for South Africa.
Now at the back, Hatfield is driven forward by Botha. Van der Westhuizen has 3. Look at Jos Van der Westhuizen. That could be the end of a great international career.
As I walked off before full time, sat on the bench, and I just smiled because it was nice.